Today I'm taking you through 4 movements to help prep the upper body for overhead movement like press, pull-ups, if you're getting ready for an activity like swimming or a rotational activity like tennis or golf. These will all be helpful to help your shoulder, spine, scapula tissues for your movement coming up. So you're gonna need some long sticks. If you don't have long sticks, you can set up a barbell on a squat rack and hang down from there, or just simply find a wall. Arms are gonna be overhead and you'll hang from that position. We'll also need a yoga block or 2 and a light weight. So let's get started. We're gonna start with the long sticks in our monkey hang position. So we're gonna start in a tall standing position. Feet are about hip width apart. Sticks are gonna be at 3 and 9 o'clock right next to those heels, just 4 to 6 inches away. Then you're going to reach up towards the top of those sticks with a rope grip, meaning you're not grabbing the top, we're just wrapping the hands around. Some slight slack in those elbows. And then you're gonna drive the sticks into the floor and then slowly sink your body weight down so that you're giving your weight to the upper body and those sticks. Okay, so we're just hanging on those sticks. I'll show you from this angle. This is a great alternative to hanging on a pull-up bar and prepping the tissues for this overhead movement. So I really like to start with this if I'm doing overhead work, because we are getting the shoulders in that max flexed position and able to maintain spine extension. Stay in that position. I'm just going to show you from this side. So in our overhead position, the spine needs to be able to extend. So we don't want that spine to be round while trying to get the arms overhead. This is a great way of allowing that spine to lengthen and extend with those arms overhead. Now we're gonna activate this dead hang by driving those sticks into the floor. So by driving the sticks into the floor even more, we're gonna pull the shoulders away from the ears. So you should be feeling the lats engage underneath those armpits. You should feel those shoulder blades sliding down away from the ears. Those elbows should stay straight. We should start to feel that grip waking up here. We're gonna hold and then slowly release back to that dead hang. You can come up out of that position and we'll do that again. So go ahead and set that tall standing position. We're gonna get back into this hang. Shake out that grip if you need. As you sink those hips down, notice how they're slightly going back and my chest is going forward a little bit. That's gonna allow for a little more stretch in that thoracic or mid spine. Drive those shoulders away from the ears, sticks into the ground, and we're gonna also focus on dropping that rib cage down. So we want to be able to extend the spine without popping that rib cage or flaring the rib cage out in front of you. This is a great way of feeling that. So once we've found this nice active hang, let's add rotations to it. So now we're gonna rotate the spine by reaching the right stick forward and opening that left stick towards 6 o'clock. Notice that the hips are not moving, so we want to keep that right hip pulling back away from that right arm. And then let's reach the left stick forward, right stick back towards 6 o'clock, rotating that spine and moving those shoulders. Let's come back center, take a rest. I'll show you from this angle, the front angle. We're going to do that one more time. So let's get into that dead hang first. We're really just trying to wake up these tissues and get a nice, good stretch in before we start to add extra tension to that movement. Activate that stretch and that hang by driving the sticks into the floor, shoulder blades pulling away from the ears. Drop that rib cage down. Let's reach the left stick forward here. We're rotating. If you just feel more comfortable hanging, you can stick with that progression, and then we'll switch. Reach the right stick forward. Keep those hips nice and still. Let's do one more. Reach that left stick forward, feeling that grip really, really waking up. Make sure you can breathe in this position. Check in with that rib cage and make sure that it's not flaring. And then we'll slowly come back center and come on out of it. So let's activate that shoulder flexion position. So we're going to grab a short stick. You can keep your long stick or you can just keep your hand on the wall. And we're going to come down to the floor. We're going to do a shoulder flexion lift off one side at a time. So keeping all of those ideas in mind with the spine extended, but the rib cage down, driving the shoulders away from the ears, we're now going to activate the tissues of the shoulder to be able to lift up into that max range shoulder flexion. Any overhead movement and a lot of rotational movements are going to require you to get that arm as close to the ear as possible. So we're just going to prep those tissues for working in that end range. So from a low kneeling position, stick is going to be about 6 inches in front of that right knee. You're going to grab above eye level, and then you're going to shift forward. Similar to the monkey hang, bringing that chest forward and letting that arm go up by the ear. So it's almost like we're finding that passive hang again, just kind of like pulling that chest through the arm. And then we're going to activate that hang by driving the stick into the floor, activating those lats here, pulling that shoulder away from the ear, and of course, finding that rib and hip connection while maintaining that extension of the spine. So we're going to place the left hand on the floor to help stabilize this position. Then we're going to slide the right hand down without moving anything else, just a few inches. Drive that stick into the floor at 50% of your max effort. And then we're going to reverse that tension. So now you're going to lift up at 50% of your max effort, pulling that arm next to the ear, keeping that elbow nice and straight, and then slowly bring the stick back down. So let's do that again. Ramp up that tension. When we drive the stick into the floor, you're going to feel the tissues in the anterior or front side of that shoulder working to push the stick into the ground. And then as you lift, we're going to feel the tissues in the posterior side of that shoulder, the back of the shoulder, to lift that stick off of the floor. And bring it down. Let's do one more of those. Drive down into the floor at 50% tension. And as you lift, try not to let anything in the body move. So we're trying to keep the spine still, keep that shoulder away from the ear, keep that neck right on that angle of the rest of the spine, and then slowly bring that arm down. You can go all the way back to that passive hang and slowly come out of it. So now we're going to switch to the opposite side. So it's really important that that elbow stays straight. So we don't want to compromise that elbow for height, because if we're bending the elbow and lifting from there, we're not really lifting from the shoulder, we're lifting from the elbow. So less is more. Let's take the ego out of it and just slide the hand a little bit lower so you can lift, right? So let's set that left stick out in front of the left knee. Find that passive hang first. So here we can reach up a little bit higher. We're just breathing into this stretch, similar to the monkey hang, pulling that chest down and forward. Then when we activate this hang, the hand's going to slide down a little bit. We're engaging these lats here. We're pulling that rib cage back and in, and we're stabilizing with that right hand. Now, in order to lift, this is kind of our max range active shoulder flexion. So in order to lift out of this, it's going to be really difficult. So that's why we lower the hand slightly, keeping that base position the same. And then from here, we can lift that stick off the floor and really feel the benefits of that drill. So we'll start by driving into the ground at 50% tension, feeling the anterior, that front of the shoulder working to drive down. And then let's reverse it, lifting straight up, trying to get that arm next to the ear without letting that elbow bend. Elbow's got to remain straight here. Slowly bring that stick down, take a breath. And let's do that 2 more times, driving down into the floor, activating that shoulder flexion. And then without letting that body move, we're going to lift up. We want this lift to be very small. If you're lifting that stick way off the floor, then we need to make it a little bit more challenging by bringing that chest a little closer to the ground. Driving down into the floor at 50% tension. And then reverse it, lifting off the floor. Keep that spine nice and still. 3, 2, 1. Bring that arm down. You can release into that passive shoulder flexion stretch. And then let's slowly come out of it. So now that we've worked that shoulder flexion, we know where each of our arms and shoulders stand in that position. Let's work in and out of that shoulder flexion with some rotation as well. So you could put your stick to the side. These, we're gonna do some swimmer hovers. You could place barriers on the side as a little more incentive to hover over, but I'm gonna show you without any equipment here. So we're gonna lie face down and grab something for underneath the forearm, like a towel. You can place a yoga block under the forehead. I'm gonna use this pull buoy. We're gonna wrap those hands behind the head, overlapping. Now we're gonna drive those feet into the floor, and again, make sure that the spine is not overextending or the rib cage is flaring. So we're gonna tuck that tailbone under, pull the ribs down towards the hips, and maintain that tension throughout the movement. So the first thing we're gonna do is squeeze the shoulder blades together to lift those elbows, and then you're gonna try to lift those hands straight off of the head. Now this is a very small movement. Then we're going to extend the arms next to the ears, try to get those elbows, once again, all the way straight. This is your shoulder flexion position. Palms are gonna face in towards each other and up as much as possible. Keep those arms off the ground as you slowly start to hover to the side. And as you do that, start rotating those arms. So the thumbs are gonna point forward and down, and continue rotating as you reach up and back into shoulder extension. Now the tops of the hands are reaching down towards the floor or in towards each other. Once again, keep those elbows straight. Once you can't squeeze those arms together anymore, overlap those hands by bending the elbows and slide them up your back as high as they'll go, and then release. You're gonna bring the hands down and the elbows towards the floor for a nice shoulder internal rotation stretch. And then we reverse that movement. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the elbows, and lift the hands up. Then we're going to extend behind you, tops of the hands reaching towards each other, nice and straight elbows. When you can't squeeze together or lift any higher, we're going to start hovering out to the side, turning the thumb down towards the floor. Keep that rotating, trying to squeeze those biceps next to the ears as much as you can. Keep those elbows straight till the very end. Bend those elbows. Slide the hands up and back behind the head. Bring the hands and the elbows down. So if you're watching that first rep, we're going to do 2 more nice and slow, and now you can follow along with me. So let's squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift those elbows and hands. Make sure you're still driving into the floor with the ribs and the feet. Extend those arms overhead. Try to get those straight elbows and then hover to the side, rotating those thumbs forward and down. Continue that rotation until the tops of the hands are reaching for each other. You're going to bend the elbows, slide the hands up the back, bring the hands and the elbows down, take a breath. And then as you exhale, reverse that. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and lift. We're going to reach behind, tops of the hands reaching for each other. Reaching out and around to the side. Rotate those thumbs down towards the floor. Keep rotating so they reach up towards the ceiling. Keep those arms off the floor and the elbows nice and extended. Bend those hands, or bend the elbows to slide the hands behind the head. Come on down, take a breath. And let's do that one more time. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift everything up, extend overhead. Feel that rotation of the shoulders trying to lift higher and higher off the floor with each and every rep. Rotate the tops of the hands more towards each other, bend behind the back, and then bring everything down. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, reverse that movement. Squeeze to lift. Reaching behind, big hover out and around to the side. Solid shoulder flexion here as we lift up and squeeze next to the ears. Bend the elbows, slide the hands behind the head, and come on down. All right, so we've got one more movement in our movement prep. We're gonna do a windmill. So if this is new to you, you're just gonna do this with your hands on your hips to start, and then we'll grab a light weight. So from a tall standing position, feet about hip width apart, hip to shoulder width apart, we're gonna put your hands on your hips, and then you're gonna turn your feet 45 degrees to the left. Boop. So from there, keep your torso facing straight ahead and shift all of your weight onto that right leg. Left leg is gonna be holding limited amounts of weight. So you can lift that left foot up, and as you put it back down, make sure you're not shifting most of your weight onto that left leg. So we're gonna keep most of our weight on this right leg. This right knee is gonna stay straight while this left leg stays slightly flexed. And then it's as if there's a string attached to your pants. Someone's pulling that string up towards where the ceiling and the wall meet. So someone's pulling that string up and back on this diagonal. So wherever that wall, that corner of the wall is behind you, we're gonna go slightly up and back. That's gonna take your hips into a hinge and your body forward. As you're pulling forward into that hinge, you're gonna try to wedge that left elbow inside of that left knee. If you can't reach it, you're just gonna extend that left arm so that the arm is wedged inside of that knee. And we're rotating that spine. So we're using that wedge to help find a little more leverage to rotate the body to the side. Now in this position, we wanna make sure that we're not rounding the spine laterally. We wanna keep that spine nice and extended. So if this is as far as you go, then that's it, right? We don't wanna start moving from the mid back once that hip stops moving. So everything happens from that hip. Once the hip stops moving, that's your stopping point. Come on up out of that position. Let's do that one more time with the hands on the hips. Reach that right hip up and back. Rotate that spine. Try to get that left arm or elbow inside of the left knee. Now, as you're doing this, imagine that you're standing inside of a narrow hallway. So try not to reach the hip towards 6 o'clock and your body towards 12, right? That hip is almost going towards 4 o'clock, so your body can go towards 10 o'clock. Once you find that left leg, find that wedge for more rotation. And then slowly bring the hips back up. Now let's add the top arm. So you can either do this without weight and just reach this top arm up as you slide down, or you can add a light weight. We're gonna do this 3 more times. So dumbbell, kettlebell, whatever you've got that is manageable, you can hold for an extended period of time overhead. Find that setup, reach that right hip up and back. We're gonna find that left leg where we're wedging to find more rotation. Feel a deep stretch in the back of that right leg. We are taking that shoulder flexion and turning it to the side. And then as you come back up, we're back in that shoulder flexion position. So we're keeping that arm perpendicular to the ceiling or the floor and moving your body around it. This is going to help get the shoulder stabilized for your movement. Come on up. Let's go one more time. We want to hold each stretch for 3 to 5 counts. Finding rotation of that spine. Make sure that shoulder stays packed away from the ear. And come on down. You could do 5 reps on the left with your weight, or we can do the first 2 without and then add it in. So let's start with those feet hip to shoulder width apart. Turn on 45 degrees. Lift that right leg, make sure there's limited weight on it. And let's lift that left hip up and back as if there's a string connected to it. Someone's pulling it towards that now 8 o'clock position. Try to find that right leg and wedge that right elbow into it. You can open here on both sides of the arms and come on up. And let's do that again. Most of that weight stays on that left leg. As you rotate, hinge at that hip. Arm stays perpendicular to the ceiling if you have it extended. And up, we're gonna do 3 more. Add your weight if you'd like. Something you can hold overhead for an extended period of time. We'll go into that hinge, find that wedge, and up. Make sure you're in that narrow hallway. Try not to lean too far forward with the body. We want that rotation happening rather than swinging forward. And let's go one more time. Hinging at that hip, holding at the bottom, finding that wedge. Make sure you can breathe there. Shoulder away from the ear. And release. All right. So now we're ready for that upper body movement. I hope you learned something about shoulder movement today and shoulder stability. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.